I'm Maxwell Garcia. Today is September 29th and I'm in Tallahassee, Florida, a sophomore electrical engineering major at Florida State University. And Hurricane Ian was supposed to be approaching Tally as a Category 2 hurricane right now, but it's sunny skies. It's an absolutely gorgeous day. Temperatures are reaching like a max of 75 degrees. Honestly, Ian is just one of those hurricane teasers. Like, it was so much of a tease that FSU canceled school Tuesday through Friday, and yet now, because Ian just trended more and more east, we're not getting a single drop of rain from the hurricane. So Ian goes down as one of those teasers with like Hurricane Dorian, maybe Hurricane Matthew. Irma kind of teased us a little bit, but still brought some high-end tropical storm winds to Miami. Still have to find my way into an eye of a hurricane and then run a mile, listen to Hurricane by the Hamilton cast, because that's one of my dreams. And shout out to Jim Cantori almost getting wrecked by Ian with a tree branch. Since I have all this extra time, I want to talk about my financial situation and how I'm going to buy a Tesla. Starship, Tesla, decanter bottle. And let me show you someone who lives at my apartment complex with a white Model 3. There it is, a white Model 3 with the 18-inch aero wheels in all its glory. In the sea of gas cars. And that car is almost my dream car, and I want to make this little update video to show my progression towards buying that dream car. Especially since we're in a bear market. Rawr! A bear market is defined as when the stock market goes down by 20% or more, and that's what we're in right now. As of right now, I'm a sophomore in college and I'm expected to graduate on time if I take some summer classes. And as of right now, I don't need a car. I live pretty close to the bus route that I need to take to get to the engineering campus. So with that bus route and just walking around town and using other people's cars, I've managed to not own a car myself. I did have one in high school, but that's kind of basically my brother's now. Of course, I want to own a car eventually. I definitely want a road trip around the United States, and having a car to just go pick up groceries is a nice, convenient thing. As of right now, it takes me about 20 to 25 minutes to walk to work, and that could be done in like 4 minutes with AC in a car. So with the car market the way it is, here's the options I'm looking at for me buying a car in like 4 years after I graduate college. Number one, buy my dream vehicle, a lithium iron phosphate Model 3 or Model Y. The LFP pack doesn't exist for the Model Y yet, but they're building them in China, so hopefully in a couple years that rolls over to the United States. So I would buy my dream Tesla with the white interior, white paint on the outside, the base set of tires, Tesla insurance, buy the $200 mobile connector, and not get full self-driving anymore because $15,000 is a lot, and the basic autopilot is good enough. The second option is to buy a Chevy Bolt or a Chevy EUV, and that is right now in between like $25,000 and $30,000, which actually gets even cheaper after the new EV tax credit, but you know, those kind of qualifications are still up in the air. The reason I want a Tesla that much more than the Bolts is something I will say in a little bit when I talk about why I own Tesla stock. I mean, I've already talked about Tesla stock before, but I'm just gonna reiterate. So I really want SUV, so that's why I would slightly prefer the Y over the 3, and I would slightly prefer the EUV over the Bolt. But just one major downside of a Bolt or EUV is the charging speed for road trips. I think it charges at like 75 kilowatt hours. I think that's the proper unit for charging rates. And while a Model 3 and a Model Y could get to like 175, 200, 250 kilowatt hours. So that's a big difference there. And then the third option would be to buy a used gas car to hold me over until I could get to the second or first option. Buy a used gas car for like a couple thousand, definitely below like 8,000. Hopefully it has AC, and even better if it has Apple CarPlay. So that's where I'm at with my car thinking. And I guess I could just mention this. Since I'm 19 years old, I'm not even thinking about buying a house yet. I think I would need a long-term job and then maybe a more stronger signal that I'm building a family. But obviously buying a house is much better than renting, and I would like to buy a mortgage as soon as possible. And that would be my very first time in debt, hopefully, because I really want to buy these 3 car options in full. So now, because I'm a college student, I'm gonna go eat some great value mac and cheese. I ate, back to the video. So even though my dream Tesla is like already a perfect car, it could still get better, because you could always get better. So here's like a wish list of things that I hope Tesla is gonna add to the 3 and Y before I purchase it in maybe 3 years, maybe 2 decades, who knows when, but I am going to purchase a Tesla one time in my life, unless things go drastically wrong with the company, but it doesn't seem like that right now. So for one, I would like 120 hertz on the display. That's just the refresh rate. My iPad Pro is 120 hertz. Apple has 120 hertz in their MacBook Pros, and the iPhone Pros, maybe they're gonna release it down to the Apple Watches, but most displays should be 120 hertz if they can be. I also wish Tesla puts 5G modems into their Tesla vehicles, not because I love 5G speeds and I think you need 5G to unlock this capability. No, I don't think so. It's just like when the carriers start to roll out 6G and they start closing down 4G lines, you don't really want to have to like retrofit your Tesla and upgrade your modem and pay for something later on, when it could just be done now and you don't have to worry about it later. I also wish the 3Y got the yoke steering wheel, and with the removal of the gear shift, so you just change in between drive and reverse on the screen, because you only do that like once or twice a drive, so you can just put it into the screen, no problem. Have the yoke, feels like you get more room in the interior. I'm all for that. I hope in some way Starlink comes to every single car. So I guess it's either add 5G or add Starlink capability. Can you get it on a moving vehicle? Maybe. I mean, they're on cruise ships. Cruise ships are moving pretty slowly. You could get Starlink through T-Mobile now with your phone. So things are moving in the direction of it. It might not be possible engineering wise. Well, it might be possible, but might not be realistic. But hopefully one day it'll get to that. And then my last couple wish list things is that I actually wish the 3Y screen would get bigger, from 15 inches to maybe 17 to match the display in the S and X. The Teslas go to an 800 volt architecture. I'm actually not too enlightened on the benefits of a 800 volt architecture. I just know Lucid is on the architecture and they get slightly better efficiency, like in between the Lucid Air and the Model S Plaid. And I hope Tesla adds Apple's MagSafe wireless connector to the wireless chargers that already come stock with the car, because MagSafe is wonderful. And just by the nature of this video, there is so much to talk about when it comes to personal finance that I think this really should be a mandatory high school class, even though high schoolers are really going to be bored in the class and not really pay attention. Even though there's just so much information out there when it comes to, saving, 401k, credit cards, mortgages, just loans, like the stock market, crypto, taxes. Like there's so much things you could teach that could fit in a one-year class. And I'm just starting to learn about it, even though I am young, dumb, and broke still, quoting Khalid. I still have a lot more to learn, but I'm starting to feel like I got a grasp on it. Here's a chart that I'm updating monthly with kind of basically my top 2 car options. I have the Chevy Bolt as like a light blue line that shows the recent price decrease, and actually might price decrease again once the federal tax incentives of 2023 start rolling in. So there could actually be 2 significant drops for the Chevy Bolt in 1 year. That's pretty neat. I mean, the demand for the product is not too high, so it might be necessary. And then I have the prices for the base Model 3 and Y with the white interior, and then I have the FSD options, which FSD has just been skyrocketing in the last 2 years, so making it unreasonable. The question is, how much would I pay for FSD, to buy it with the car stock? I think around $5,000 to $7,000. I think that's the fair value for it, buying it right away. Because I'm not really that interested in paying for FSD and hopefully one day enrolling my car in the robotaxi network and making like $30,000 a year passively. Like, that doesn't hype me up too much. I just really want FSD for like level 3 to just drive it on the highway or drive it for me from place to place, and I could just use my phone or do anything else, like study, read a book, just not have to drive, and it's actually safer for me not to drive. That's why I want FSD, not really the whole robotaxi thing. But the robotaxi is going to be neat if it happens, because as a user who doesn't have a car, I would definitely use the robotaxi if it was like 3 times cheaper than the current Uber. The whole point of this chart is to slowly see the compounding interest building with my investments. So I have like the black line, which is like my total investments, even though I basically like blurred out the whole key. Yeah, I'm trying to get that black line to pass. Well, obviously the light blue one, because that's just heavy bolt, but obviously the goal is for it to pass that brown line, because a base Model 3 without taxes is like $47,000. Post-tax it's like $50,000. So hopefully my investments get to that point. And as of right now, I'm 19 in 2022. We're not there yet, but one day we will be. So the question is, where am I putting all the little money I have to eventually get that black line to pass the brown line so I could buy a $50,000 car? And so far, in what I've seen, stocks and crypto, especially stocks, are the best investments to place your money. For like the last 100 years, on average, if you just invest in the S&P 500, which is the top 500 US companies, has basically any company you could think of that's fairly large in there. Like a Walmart, McDonald's, a Nike, Apple, they're all in there. Over the course of like the past century, the average rate of return has been like 7 to 10%, which is really good. And for that risk reward profile, you can't really find anything that beats that, except maybe crypto, but that's even more risky. So, you know, you trade off with risk and reward there. But like if you're looking at bonds right now are returning like 4% interest, but they don't really go up in value over time, and they can definitely not 20x like Tesla has. I mean, you 20x your money. That means if you put $1,000 in Tesla in like 2013, it's now probably like 25,000 from just a single stock. That's ridiculous. I mean, similar things have happened with Chipotle stock. Chipotle stock has like 5x or 10x in the last like 5 years, which is mind-boggling. Again, putting in 1,000 and now you have $5,000 to $10,000 from just a single stock. Bonds would never do that for you. Comparing that to like interest rates that banks give, well, TD Bank doesn't really have a savings account with more than 1% interest. Most banks don't offer that. Maybe like Ally Banking has decent interest. I know SoFi has maybe a bank account that offers like 2% interest per year. Still nothing compared to like the benchmark 7% that stocks give. And then you could look at maybe gold or silver. I mean, that really hasn't done that much in the last decade. Definitely not doubling every like couple years. And I mean, what else are we looking at? I guess real estate is a pretty good investment, but you need a lot of money to actually make money in that market, to actually buy a whole property and buy multiple properties. But with stocks, you could just invest $1 and start seeing your returns if you just wait. And there's actually like a statistic that if you keep your money in the market, in like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, the QQQ index, you're not going to lose money as long as you keep your money in there for at least 20 years. So if you keep your money in there for 20 years, you are guaranteed like 100% rate to make money, which is very impressive. Is that stack going to hold up forever? Me personally, I think the US economy is going to continue to grow. Technology only gets better, especially in the last like decade and the decades to come. Technology is going to transform our world. Food should be plentiful. We're going to renewable energy. Energy is not going to be a concern anymore, like with the Russian-Ukraine war over like gasoline and European utility prices like skyrocketing. There shouldn't be any more labor shortages anymore with like autonomous vehicles, the Tesla bots. I mean, just manufacturing is going to get way more efficient with technology. Technology is going to proliferate throughout all of our lives, and it's just going to raise the standard of living. And if you want to be a part of that trend, just invest in the stock market, because companies literally pay out money to shareholders for bringing value to society. So I just think it's so obvious to be a part of the stock market, because they literally sell products to consumers, and you're a consumer, right? So you just want a cut of that profit that the company's making. One way to think about it is that my dad made a joke the other day when he was up here in Tallahassee. We went through a self-checkout at Greenwise, which is, the luxury Publix, and he was like, "Oh, where's my paycheck for doing self-checkout?" Well, you don't get a direct paycheck, but if you invest in Walmart or Target, which they have those self-checkout machines, if you put $200 in Walmart or Target, you're going to get around $4 per year from just owning the stock passively. Like a free $4 just for putting in the 200. So that, I guess, is a wage, a very indirect wage with the stock market, but it is a wage involved with the increasing adoption of technology. The little tax hack I was talking about, and why I'm not putting every single dollar into a Roth IRA right now, and I'm putting a lot of my money into a taxable account, is that if my salary stays below $40,000, I have to pay 0% long-term capital gains tax, which is the taxes you have to pay when you sell your stocks, and that's taxes on the profits. So if I sell my stocks for $20,000, I made $10,000 profit, you would normally have to pay 15 to 20% depending on your income off that profit. So 15 and 20,000 off 10,000, which would be $1,500 or $2,000 in this example. But since I'm probably gonna buy a car before I get a job that's gonna pay me more than $40,000 a year, my plan is to sell all my stocks in my taxable account, then buy my dream vehicle, and then start it up again and save up for a house. And I forgot to mention, why did I choose stocks and crypto over the other investment options? I can't do real estate because I don't have enough money to invest in housing, and then all the other options, they just lack in comparison to the 7% benchmark. But do you know what really lacks? Cash. Just putting money into the bank account, and with no interest from the bank or nothing, you're getting negative money per year. You're getting a negative return because inflation is just taking money invisibly out of that bank account, which is pretty sad. I mean, if, let's say, the S&P 500 returned 7%, and I don't know, inflation was at a negative 5% per year, then I would say it would, based on the risk and reward profile, it might make sense to not invest that much money into the stock market. You could just keep it in a bank account and not worry, because inflation is actually helping you. It's not inflation, it's deflation every single year. For my stock portfolio, I have a very interesting portfolio because I go against what 99.9% of people should do. Because 99% of people should just not think about picking individual stocks and just go into the S&P 500, or if you want a little bit more tech, which is my little preference, invest in the QQQ, which is what I'm doing for my Roth IRA, which is where if I don't sell before my age of 59 and a half years old, I don't have to pay any taxes on that once I'm past that age. So that's what the Roth IRA is. You can only max it out at $6,000 per year. So that's what I'm doing in my Roth IRA. I'm just putting money into the QQQ, believing in the American economy and technology to slowly progress over time, to expand margins of companies, which eventually they're going to pay out to shareholders, because companies are liable to shareholders because they're trying to make profit, and the shareholders supported the company in the first place. So it's just, a yin and yang relationship. So in my Roth IRA, I am following this rule of not picking individual stocks and just setting money there and not touch it for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, and believe in the American economy that way. But because I believe I can actually beat the market, which is this horrible phrase because 99.9% of people can't beat the market, but I believe I could beat the market with my investment strategy of owning like 10 to 15 growth stocks and just like a couple divvy stocks to just give me some passive income, and just keep a tight-knit group of like under 30 stock picks and be like concentrated like heavily in like the top 5 and be it more in the growth sector and then beat the market. And honestly, doing this way actually makes investing a little bit more fun, which is like, because some people might compare stocks to like gambling your money at a casino. Like, oh, you're just going to lose it. No, you're really not. As long as you keep your money in like with a long-term perspective, you keep it in for at least like a minimum of 5 years to 10 to 20. I mean, in between 5 and like 60 years, that's like amazing. So as long as you keep your money in the long term, because stock prices actually correlate with a company making more and more money. In the short term, there's not that much correlation. Like if you just look at the stock market, Tesla's making more money than ever, but their stock price is kind of slightly down in the last year. And that's because like the overall market has gone bearish because like the federal interest rates, inflation, the whole global economy slowing down, the Russian-Ukraine war, things like that. So short-term evaluations of companies, they fluctuate to whoever's will. Bad news, good news on a given day. That's going to just change the stock price. But over time, stock prices go up with the profit and the revenue of a company going up. So if you pick good companies that are going to grow their profit and revenue over time and their earning per share, then the stock price will go up and your stock picks will make you a bunch of money. No offense to the QQQ and the S&P 500. I think I could also beat those ETFs, not only because they're like a huge list of 100 companies, and I think I could pick the best of those 100 companies and shorten it to like 10 companies that I think are just going to dominate over the next like century or the next decade, if you want to shorten the time frame. It's just like some of those companies in the ETFs make me uncomfortable, and I really just don't want to touch those type of stocks. So in the S&P 500, here are the list of companies I just don't want to own because I don't like each company for a particular reason. For the S&P 500, you have the United Health Group. I do not like the way the American health system is run, and I just don't want to be a part of that at all unless something is trying to disrupt it entirely, and United Health isn't doing that. The next one is Exxon. I don't want to own any gas stocks at all, even though the divvies are nice. It's just the S&P 500, they own a couple gas stocks. Then there's JP Morgan. I understand they run like billions and billions of assets, if not trillions. I don't like the way typical banking is run. I'm more into SoFi and Cash App and PayPal and Venmo, like disrupting the way current banking is done. You also have Chevron, like I said, gas stocks. Then you have Pfizer. I did not like the way they ran COVID, trying to really heavily persuade companies to make the vaccines mandated. Those are a couple S&P 500 companies I really don't want to own. And then in the NASDAQ, you have T-Mobile. It's like, what's going on with T-Mobile? I guess they're just a very reliable business. I don't want to own it. T-Mobile as a company is just same thing with AT&T, Verizon. I could just go without it. Then there's also Comcast. My family paid for Comcast internet and cable for years, and when we literally got done with the contract, it was a joyful day because we could switch to AT&T for our Wi-Fi and YouTube TV for cable TV, both cheaper and better. So Comcast, even though they have the Universal Studios parks, which I love, just their cable business grosses me out so much. Then you also have Intel. Intel's getting disrupted by AMD, so that's just another company I don't want to own. Some other companies in the QQQ, you have Moderna, yet again, you know, the whole vaccine thing making me iffy. You have Booking.com. I'm all Airbnb. So, you know, just some of these companies I disagree with, and that's why I think my portfolio is better. Even though, like I said, 99.9% of people should not do what I'm doing. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. Even though psychologically speaking, that's not the accurate way of humankind. I think I could beat the QQQ and the S&P 500. So here's my stock portfolio. I do have a handful of divvy stocks that I could easily get rid of and substitute the S&P 500. And it would theoretically give me the same results. But like I said, I just like picking individual stocks because I don't want to put any of my money into oil and allow the oil companies to make money off the shareholders, or like invest some of my money that I'm giving them into like oil projects. Like, no thank you. Literally, as a shareholder, you own a piece of the company. You own a piece of the profits. So when you give money to the company as a shareholder, or you like own equity, they could like dilute the shareholders and raise money for the company so they could use that money to invest into projects. Like, let's say like Lucid is struggling with cash. I mean, they have like $6 billion left and is like dwindling. Then they could dilute the shareholder base, raise money for the company, and then invest that money back into the company to, let's say, build more factories, to build eventually more Lucid Airs, which could eventually make the shareholders money, but in like a long like circle. And to be clear, before I get into my own portfolio, because I'm going to talk about this for a while, even though this video is going to be gargantuan because there's just so much to talk about and I'm not good at putting all this information into a concise like 5-minute thing. What people should do is, number one, build up a 6 to 12 month cash reserve in a bank account. Yes, it's going to lose into inflation, but it's a safety net in case you get fired, there's a recession, yada yada. Number two, max out your 401 employee match if you're employed in a company that offers that. If you're self-employed, just skip this step. Obviously, you don't have a 401k with the company. You can make a personal 401k, I'm pretty sure, or a similar like account plan, but you don't have the 401k employee match. The next step is to max out your Roth IRA every single year. If you have like an income above like 120,000, I don't think you could put any more money into a Roth IRA, but you know, most Americans don't have that wage, so they don't have to worry about that limit. And then after that, put as much money as you can into the 401k, and then you put money into a taxable account / crypto. So that's what everyone should do, so that way when you get to be really old, you could just live off passable income with your stocks. Because let's say you have like $1 million in your stock accounts and you transfer that to like a 4% dividend every single year, you would make 40,000, right? 40,000 of 4% of $1 million is 40,000. 4% of $1 million. Yeah, it is 40,000. In retirement, 40,000 a year is a lot of money just passively. Like, you're not doing anything. You can sit on the couch and make $40,000 a year if you have $1 million in the portfolio. And if you save up more than that, then sheesh, then you have a lot. There's a very key theme in all this is to not let your emotions get the hold of you. Like, even if stocks go down like 50% in a year because of COVID or the great financial crisis or the dot-com bubble, just hold on through the pain, because the stock price will eventually catch up with the actual value of the company, because the value of the company short-term fluctuates, but long-term is actually correlated with the stock price. So with time, compound interest is just a beautiful thing. It could make your money grow exponentially, not linear, because if you just put money into a bank account, your money is growing slightly less than a linear pace. But if you put money into S&P 500 and it continues to my camera just went over the 30-minute limit, so that's why I'm restarting. So if you put your money into the S&P 500 and it continues to do the 7 to 10% per year, then your money is going to grow at a compound rate that looks like an exponential graph, which is a beautiful thing because over time you get more and more money with time. So time is basically the number one thing to have when you're investing in stocks and crypto. Because maybe when you put money, since you put in money, your stock pick might go down 10, 20, 30, sometimes even 50 to 70%. And sometimes it's okay to sell it if you really lost complete conviction. But if you still have some resemblance of conviction in the long-term company, is it a generational company? Is it a company bring happiness and value to society? Does the company have pricing power, which means it could raise prices a little bit more and people would still pay for it? Then if the company satisfies those requirements, then just keep your money in and the stock price will eventually go back to where you're making a profit. If I had to give any advice to someone my age, even though I guess like the average net worth of someone like me who's in college is actually like negative 10,000, negative 20,000 because of college debt, and I right now thankfully have a scholarship that I hope to keep so I could graduate debt free. That is my goal. If you have the money, put money away into the Roth IRA because the money you put in right now is like let's say you put in $1,000 into a Roth IRA right now, that's going to be like $30,000 once you get to the retirement age of around 60. Because time makes investments beautiful. And just to put it out there, you don't really have to cover all of your life expenses with dividend payments. Let's say like I buy a Spotify plan for $10 a month. You need to put in $7,200 into the stock market, into a stock that gives a 2% dividend yield to cover that $10 a month Spotify plan. So it kind of costs $7,000 for you to have that $10 a month Spotify plan, for it to at least run passively and you don't even have to work to pay off that Spotify plan. So that's one way you could think about dividends. You could also think about it as just extra cash you get from not working. So now to my investment portfolio, which again, most people shouldn't even have. Most people should just QQQ or S&P 500 and that is it. But the companies that I look for in my investment portfolio is number one, companies I love. I like to think of my portfolio as the companies that I would want to keep if I had to select companies to keep out of all the other companies. Like let's say in the world where only like 20 companies can exist, the companies in my stock portfolio would be the companies I would want to exist. Just a little weird, quirky way to think about my investment portfolio, but that's kind of a criteria. Another kind of weird, quirky criteria that I have is that if I'm watching YouTube videos or I watch all of like the presentations of the company, I kind of have to invest in that company because my mind is just attracted to innovation and I love companies that are changing the norm and they're doing it in a fun, awesome way. So like I watch every single Tesla presentation, which means I kind of should invest in Tesla stock because I'm following the company and I like where the company's heading. I watch every Apple presentation, which means I probably should own Apple stock. I watch every Duolingo presentation, so I probably should own Duolingo stock. It's not a thing that applies to every single stock in my portfolio, but it's just a little something that is, a criteria check. Do I watch the presentations done by this company? Yes or no? Another one is that do I like the CEO and is the CEO invested in the company? Like do they have like 15% of the company, for example, because Elon owns 15% of Tesla. So he's directly incentivized to put his engineering ideas into the company to make more revenue for the company to eventually make his equity in the company grow in terms of value. So ideally, I really want founder-led, passionate companies. And obviously it helps if the company's riding some type of technological S-curve or just societal, cultural S-curve. Like for example, Lululemon is an apparel company. I own their stock. I'll get into all the stocks I own in just a quick second. But I believe that as a society, we're definitely pushing more an active lifestyle, like go work out, go run, swim, do a sport, get physical fitness in like at least a couple times a week, if not every day. And with that, you kind of have to buy athletic clothes. You don't really have to, but you know, there's an association there that as more people work out, more people will buy workout clothes, you know, that type of proportionality. And I believe Lululemon's riding that trend. But there's other trends, such as the electric car trend, that obviously Tesla is riding, and Tesla kind of created themselves. Those are the type of companies I'm looking for. Not every company fits that description. There's some companies where I'm just like, ew, why are you doing this? Like, for example, Peloton, they charge $40 a month for you to just use the bike that you paid like $1,000 to $2,000 for. Like Tesla, they have something called premium activity, which you pay $10 for a month for, which I don't think I would pay for if I owned a Tesla. But with that feature, you just get access to like watching YouTube or Disney Plus outside of your home Wi-Fi. And without that $10 premium connectivity, which isn't even that much for like a car that's like $50,000. But anyways, without that feature, you get standard connectivity, which your car is still connected to the internet by itself, which is awesome. And you still get map navigation free for like 8 years. When Peloton's charging $40 a month for something that you already bought with a huge upfront price, I was just like, why? What is Peloton doing? And it's not really an association, but their stock price has crashed a lot. And then there's companies with like a questionable CEO, like the CEO of Beyond Meat got into like a fight after a college football game. That's not something I really want a CEO of one of my stocks doing. And also, Beyond Meat is just getting crushed by Impossible. Beyond Meat's collaboration with McDonald's for the McPlant completely failed. The alternative meat sector isn't doing too well right now. So I guess I like to ride trends, but just mainly companies that I'm passionate about. You see that sign and then that sign right there? Those are Chipotle signs because I choose to work at Chipotle and I got those signs for free. But I'm very passionate about the brand of Chipotle, so I own Chipotle stock. Then I have a 3D model of Starship because I would completely own SpaceX stock if it went public. I would also own Neuralink and Boring Company if those Elon Musk led companies went public, because I love Elon Musk as an inventor. He is the richest person in the world, but I think he deserves that title for the way he has used his capital, and he's taken some bold risks, but they have paid off. And I would also get my hands on Discord if that company went public. And there's like a few others, such as like Aldi's and maybe like Rainbow Wallet for the Ethereum blockchain that I would be interested in to invest if they ever went public. And then since I'm making this video, I wore an Apple Park shirt because I'm passionate about Apple products. I'm really all in the Apple ecosystem. Like I own basically every single product in the ecosystem. So now getting into my portfolio, which I dollar cost average in, which is just setting aside part of your paycheck to slowly put into the market over time, like maybe like once every day or once every week, like every like Friday you put in like $50. Like that's just an example. I dollar cost into the market with these stocks. They're kind of a lot. I could easily trim it. Like I said, I could exchange the divvies for just the S&P 500 to get like that divvy. But I think I could beat the market, which is, you know, a very bold, maverick thing to say. I'm like crazy obsessive with this finance stuff. So I have a note thing in my iPad of like 200 pages of notes on companies because I just keep up with the news. And whenever I find something that relates to one of the companies I own that's like, ooh, interesting financial information, I like write it down in this like note thing. And I have like 205 pages of notes right now, which is a lot. But one of the pages is my like investment portfolio, and I have them in like tiers, which is kind of cringy. I don't think a lot of people will do this, but it's like the tiers are like my concentration in them. So tier 1 is Tesla. Tesla, I think, I'm going to put the actual number right here if I remember. It's around like 80 to 85% of my entire portfolio. And I'm not probably the best one on YouTube at all to talk about Tesla stock and the value the company is bringing to its shareholders. You could watch Hypercharts. He just made this awesome video about why Tesla could hit 10 trillion. Dave Lee is another Tesla YouTuber that talks so well about all the different facets of Tesla. There's nothing I could say right here that covers the entire company and why I'm so passionate about it and why Tesla is my dream car. So I should put my money in Tesla stock to eventually get a Tesla car. So, you know, like the Tesla stock could grow to buy that car. It just like kind of makes sense. Put your money where you want your money to eventually end up. So invest in Tesla stock to eventually buy a Tesla car. Sort of makes sense in a way. So yeah, Tesla is like a huge concentration of my portfolio. And that's one reason why I don't want to just put my money in the QQQ, is because I believe in Tesla so much. For example, I watch all of the Tesla presentations. Tesla is going to have their AI day, like I think tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow they're going to have their AI day. It's going to be like a very long presentation, very boring. But I am most likely going to watch all of it because I definitely want to see a Tesla robot plug in a charger into a car, into a Cybertruck prototype, or throw a steel ball at a Cybertruck, if those two things even happen tomorrow. But those aren't the only nerdy things I do with Tesla. I watch a YouTube channel called Tallahassee EV. His the creator of the channel, his name is Drew Erickson, and Drew Erickson is kind of, I would say, like a signal sign to a stock growing a lot. So he first made a channel called Tallahassee Tech, which now has like 250,000 subscribers. But in that channel, he was like an Apple sheet. He would just talk and make like daily videos about Apple news. And then Apple stock shot up just a couple years after like his channel started like grooving. And then he made Tallahassee EV, and when he made that channel, Tesla stock skyrocketed. So there's sort of relation between the channels he makes and the stock prices that go along with them. But that is just a complete side note. Most people won't even recognize that, but it's just something I think of. So if you're an individual shareholder, which I am, I listen to all of the 4 quarterly calls per year for basically all the companies I own. Like, I'm not going to listen to P&G earnings calls because they actually only release earnings 2 times a year because they're such a stable company, and not really as much is going on with them. So I just trust them to run the business how it is, and in real life I just see how Procter & Gamble's doing, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they're doing how I'm expecting them to do. So I don't really listen to those earnings calls, but the earnings calls of my growth stocks, those are definitely paramount to listen to. But in addition to all those earnings calls, I watch Giga Texas drone videos, which is just like drone videos of the production of the factory, which actually makes the product. Even though Elon says the product is the factory, which, you know, I agree with. Without the factory, you don't have the product, so you need the factories. And Giga Texas is just blossoming. They're about to finish their cathode facility. They have this warehouse on wheels. They're putting Tesla and solar panels on the roof. The inside of the factory is still not complete yet. They've got to do some landscaping. The Boring Company headquarters is going to move there, or they're going to build a tunnel there. A bunch of things are going to happen with Giga Texas, which is why I'm watching all of these videos. And it's also cool to see all the Teslas like rolling out and just like seeing more and more Teslas on the parking lot as the production ramps. And also I watch FSD beta videos. So Tesla has this full self-driving beta program with an increasing amount of users. They're now going to roll it out to anybody who has a safety score above 80, which is a remarkable jump, because before it was like only safety scores 93 and higher had full self-driving beta. But I just watch videos mainly from the guy named Dirty Tesla, and he reviews how the software is just getting better and better over time, how all this data is funneling into the neural nets to eventually make a robotaxi network or full self-driving package that is perfect, that is way safer than a human driving. Even though FSD plus a human, I think, is better than a human driving right now. Because honestly, if I was like drunk and it was my last resort and I couldn't call it Uber, I was just so like wasted. I don't know what situation this is, and I had to drive, like that was my only way home, then I would turn on FSD beta right now in its current state with, I think it's 10.69. I think that's the version number. And it is really good. Like, obviously it's still making mistakes, but the mistakes it's doing, it's getting less and less. And as you get more and more perfect drives and more fleet drivers are just sending more and more data to the neural nets, it's just getting more and more better. It's just kind of like a whole S-curve thing happening with FSD beta, and eventually it's going to get feature complete. It's not there yet, but full self-driving is going to actually live up to its name one day. And Tesla is this company that I'm so passionate about that I actually have Instagram posts about it. It's one of my like Instagram story feeds, because when I just saw the Model 3, I was like, this is just so much better than everything on the road. And people, the United States is actually starting to get it. I think like 5 to 10% of all new cars bought in 2022 is electric. So let's give it up for America. We're getting there. We're getting to the 100%. Obviously, there's some doubters out there, which is kind of surprising. I honestly thought everyone was on board electric cars, but there's some still hesitant to join it. And I encounter them sometimes and I'm like, okay, I mean, it's fine for you not to be on board now, but you'll be on board in 10 years, and especially in like 50 to 100 years when all gas cars are banned. We're obviously getting to the point where all the cars on the road are electric. Then you could just recycle the materials from the battery and the car, so you never really have to mine and refine lithium ever again. And then you could just get unlimited solar power with solar panels and batteries everywhere, and you get really basically 100% clean transportation system with maybe like electric planes too, and electric boats and electric everything. And you just have a way lower emissions, so we could just live in a sustainable society, and human society could live for centuries and centuries and centuries. Time to kind of quickly explain why I love Tesla as a company. Well, their mission statement is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, because obviously climate change is this huge problem that we have to address, and no one was really addressing it. So here comes along Elon with his electric car vision to mass market, because obviously there's been electric cars before the Model 3 and the Model S and the original Roadster, but they were never going up to a goal of having the whole fleet electric and producing millions and millions and millions of them. So Tesla is already, they made it as a company. The huge risk of investing in the startup, like, oh, is Tesla gonna make it or not? It's gone away. It's so far away that Tesla is on its way to becoming the #1 car maker in the world in terms of units produced. So right now, Ford and GM, they produce around like 3 to 4 million units. Tesla's already at 1.4 million units, and they are going to pass Ford and GM and then eventually pass Toyota, because currently Tesla has the goal of producing 20 million cars per year. And I think that's by 2030. I think that's the date they set, and which requires them to grow at a rate of 50% year over year. And even though it's going to be very close this year because of the whole Shanghai shutdown, they are going to hit their necessary target for the 50% year over year run rate this year in 2022, and are expected to do it over the next couple of years. So just from the electric car business alone, which is factoring out a bunch of the whole future innovations of Tesla, from just the electric car business alone, I think the stock will be worth a lot more in the future. Let's go through the math right now. So even though I don't like investing in all these numbers, I just like investing kind of how I feel with the company, with my intangible feeling. Sometimes numbers are good, and I am nowhere good at evaluating like operating margin and revenue and I don't know, all the bunch of stats that come on like a SEC filing. I'm not good at evaluating all of that, put into a spreadsheet and just shoot out like future stock price projections. I just don't have the time to do that because that seems like you need a lot of time to like understand all the different ways to evaluate a company. But what I do understand is price to sales ratio. So PE, I understand that. When a company is in its like early stage of ramping up profit, it usually earns a PE ratio way above 20. Like right now, Amazon has a PE ratio around like 110. Tesla has a PE ratio around 70. But as the company matures, most companies settle into a PE ratio around 20 to 10. If you're a company with reliable cash flows, you mandate like a premium on the market. Like Nike has a PE ratio of 25 because of how long that business has been around. Apple has a PE ratio of around 25. While other companies like GM and Ford, they have a bunch of debt. Not really an exciting business. Making cars is really difficult. And they actually might go out of business with the transition to EVs. That they only command like a PE ratio of like 8. But those are just examples. And the PE ratio gives the valuation of a company because it's the earnings per share times the PE ratio equals the stock price, which is basically the valuation of a company. And when I was talking about Ford and GM going bankrupt, when we're talking about EVs, every single car on the road will be an electric vehicle at some point. So when you're thinking in terms of who produces the most cars, Tesla kind of already does it because they have produced the most electric cars, and Volkswagen's like in second. So when you think of like, oh, every car on the road is going to be an electric car, then just look at who's making the most electric cars, and they're basically the number one leader, right? I mean, that since the stock market's so future looking, that's how you have to look. And I don't think the stock market is that future looking. Like, I think it looks maybe like 1 to 5 years in the future. But if you have like a belief in a company for like 20 years that the revenue of a company is going to skyrocket, then usually Wall Street is not looking 20 years into the future. So if you believe Tesla is going to nail the robotaxi network, going to nail the Tesla bot, and then you should like evaluate Tesla way higher than the current stock price evaluations. So that's Apple's current P ratio. Tesla's P ratio is currently... Okay, so my camera died because I've been doing this for so long, but let's get back to how I evaluate Tesla, even though I'm only going to show you this for 2 companies, this and Chipotle, and maybe Apple if I consider it. So Apple's current PE ratio is 23. I guess they are a very typical definition of a stable tech company with a huge amount of margin in their business and a bunch of revenue. So earnings per share times the PE ratio equals the stock price, which, you know, in terms equals like the valuation of the company. Tesla's around $1 trillion company. I believe they will be the number 1 company in the world, surpass Apple, but it will take a couple things to happen. So Tesla's current PE ratio is 87.46. The reason it's so high is because Tesla is not a typical automotive company, that's first of all. And second, they're a tech company. And second is that they're growing revenues at 50% year over year. So if you want to do a little check to see if Tesla is like overvalued at their current growth rates, you could use the PEG ratio. So you take the market cap of the company, which is roughly 800 billion, divided by the yearly amount of EBITDA, which for Tesla is 20 billion right now. You get about 40 billion, and you divide it by the growth rate of earnings, which is around 50%. So the PEG ratio for Tesla is less than 1, right? So that means at about above, let's say like 1.5, for Tesla's current cash flow is bringing in, Tesla would be overvalued as a company, as a growth company. But because Tesla is growing their revenues a lot, it earns this multiple evaluation on it. But as Tesla matures and the revenue growth slows, Tesla's P ratio will slowly approach like the 20 to 30 range. So this accounts for that. So Tesla's current earnings per share is around 3 per share. That's how you get the current stock price of around 270. The current number of shares is 3.4 billion. If this is just factoring in the car business alone, no robotaxi, no Tesla insurance, no Tesla solar or Megapack taking off, no, I guess, semi-truck business. This is just regular cars to consumers, which I think Tesla could sell 10 million of just Model 3s and Ys if they redo the whole Model 3 with the Giga casting and the structural battery pack for the Model 3 and just ship LFP packs with the 3 and Y. I think they could lower the prices of the 3 and Y, which increases the addressable market for those cars, and I believe Tesla can hit 10 million cars per year at an average selling price of $50,000, which equals 500 billion in profit per year. Absurd number. Then taking into account their operating margin of 20%, which I think is fair. It could go higher, it could go lower. That's like a nice middle ground number. They make 100 billion in profit per year divided by the shares outstanding, which is 3.4 billion. Then you get an earnings per share of roughly 30, and timesing that by a P ratio of 20 equals a share price of 600, which is a doubling from here. So if Tesla could hit 10 million cars selling at around an ASP of 50,000, could lower it to 40,000, and the number is still ridiculous. The stock price should double or triple or 4x or 5x within the next decade. So here's the numbers to kind of back up, revenue with a company correlates with a higher share price. Not short term, but long term, yes. So why would a car company like Tesla sell 10 million cars? How could they do that? What's their competitive advantage over other companies? I'm glad you asked. So Teslas are by far the best car on the market, and that's for clearly two reasons. One, they have all the hardware and software necessary to become a full self-driving car, because every car on the road will become a full self-driving car at one point, and Tesla is just in the lead in that. And Tesla already has their whole fleet electric, so obviously every car on the road is going to be electric. So yeah, we're already past that EV trend, and I mean the EV trend is just starting to hit the slope of the S curve, which is just beautiful. So the demand for electric cars are growing so much that even though Tesla has raised like the price of the Model Y like $15,000 in the last 2 years, there's still like a multiple month wait for the car. So if you place an order right now for a Model Y, you're probably not going to get it until early next year, which is just wow. And then you have federal tax incentives thanks to Joe Biden that's coming to help out both the buyer and the seller. That's going to pad margins a bit for Tesla. So I've already shown that the car business is huge, and the reason why it's huge is because it's kind of like the iPhone to all the other phones in the smartphone market. It's the perfect match of software and hardware. Tesla's building out their own supercharger network that's way better than Electrify America, has higher speeds, it's available in more places. Tesla's own connector is smaller and supposedly more durable than the CCS connector. Tesla has something called a safety score, so it literally incentivizes you, if you have Tesla insurance, to drive safer, so you could pay less money per month for insurance. So it's just a way to enhance safer driving. And obviously with the hardware and software mesh, you get beautiful software updates to a Tesla like every month, honestly. So recently, one little update that came out to every single car was this little green chime every time a light would turn green. And you didn't even need to pay for the full self-driving package to get that feature. Another feature that was rolled out in the last couple of years is when you like turn on your blinkers, the camera from that side, like a blind spot camera, will pop up on the screen. That never came up before. Sentry mode was a whole feature that got added to the car after. Dash cam is a whole software feature added to the car after. Camp mode, same way, dog mode. So the car literally gets better over time, which is something you couldn't say for all previous cars. Yes, it does have Apple CarPlay, but Tesla's interface is a nice close second to Apple CarPlay. And I mean, it has all the integrations with the car actually, even more so than the enhanced CarPlay is going to be. Other than the software updates, obviously I love the minimalistic interior of all Teslas. They have as little buttons as possible. As you can see, I mean, I was saying that earlier today, I want to get rid of the gear stock because the Model S and the Model X is the ideal interior. Just so minimalistic, the way it should be. Just get that huge screen, get rid of all buttons. It's like the iPhone 7 to the iPhone X transition. Just who needs physical touch buttons? Just put it into a screen. More intuitive, can get updated over time. Another benefit of Teslas over any other car is the phone app that comes with the car. You could easily precondition your car, see the battery state of charge of your car, lock the car. If you have the full self-driving package, you could get a live camera view with Sentry mode of your car. So just see what's going on around your car in real time, even if you're away from your car. You just get a bunch of nice features with the Tesla app that is much better than every other app. And not to mention, with the display, you get like YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus there, so whenever you're supercharging, you could charge and chill. Tesla as a product is just the ideal car. It's today's tech that should be in every other car. Like if you go to any other car, you see all these buttons, you see physical vents that you can move. That's not just touchless and behind the scene and implemented into the display. You see their user interface, and they have some of the ugliest softwares imaginable. Literally everyone I know who doesn't own a Tesla, which I only know one person who owns a Tesla, they put Apple CarPlay into their cars because Apple CarPlay is just superior to the actual software that comes with the car, except for Tesla software. Although some people say like, oh, I want Apple CarPlay on a Tesla. Tesla does pretty good implementation of software into their vehicles, and if you don't like it, then you actually have a hope for it to get better over time. And personally, I like the look of the Model 3 and the Model Y on the exterior too. I also love the Cybertruck design. It just goes with the whole minimalistic Tesla aesthetic. Just put everything into the display, and that just brutalistic stainless steel on the exterior, like, ooh, I love it. Even though the Cybertruck may or may not come next year, we'll see if Tesla gets into volume production of that vehicle. That's going to need a bunch of 4680 batteries. And here's the thing about Tesla, they're willing to take batteries from anyone, and they're the most flexible company. And Elon Musk says that he wants Tesla to be like the #1 manufacturer, because when every single car is an EV, every single car has full self-driving hardware and software, what's going to be the difference between all the other automakers? Elon says it's manufacturing, and you could definitely see Tesla's innovation in manufacturing with the full body casting, making a bunch of parts that were like 140 for the Model 3 into like a couple parts for the Model Y, simplifying the manufacturing line, removing robots, just removing redundancy in the vehicle production. Tesla is trying, I guess, present tense, to produce the 4680 battery, which is their own battery form factor. It's not going so well. I agree with some of the people in the Tesla community that Tesla should just start switching everything over to LFP. And if they could get 4680 to work for the Cybertruck and the Semi, great, but just focus more on the LFP pack, because the LFP Model 3 is the only lithium iron phosphate car right now. Switching to my phone, but investing is also the type of thing where you could look at like culture and see what's going on in culture and what everyone's saying about the product. And people love Tesla and Elon Musk. Like there's a whole song by Young Gravy called "Whoop a Tesla." And that's the first song I want to play when I get in my dream car, Tesla. And then like Jack Harlow had like a Tesla lyric in his song that he released this year. Drake had a song this year released with the Tesla lyric. No, it was actually last year, I'm pretty sure. So Tesla is very involved in the culture. Not to mention that engineers, all the nerds, of STEM love to go to Tesla and SpaceX. They love to work for Elon Musk. They love to work for his passionate mission statement of building a city on Mars and raising enough money for that to happen. So, I mean, a bunch of brilliant minds work at Tesla, and whatever they produce, I kind of want a share of that revenue, which is why I own a piece of the company through shares. So indirectly, when I look at those drone videos of Giga Texas, I'm like, I own a very small square feet of space of that factory. I'm actually getting thirsty now. I think we covered everything with Tesla. I just want to make a quick note of their extreme vertical integration that they're willing to do, all the way from mining lithium to refining it to building a cathode battery facility to making their own batteries, then producing the cars. I remember like one stat, there's my cat, where because of the chip shortage, other automakers were having to reduce their overall count of cars, but Tesla's actually grew, and the reason was because they would just use chips from anywhere, remove chips whenever necessary, because that's the quick thinking of Tesla. With all those brilliant engineering minds, you could do a lot of creative, amazing things with that workforce. So my tier 2 in my investment portfolio is Ethereum and Bitcoin. I'll talk about that last. In tier 3, I have a group of 5 companies. These are all the major tech companies, but I don't trust Meta. For one, yes, they're pouring billions of dollars into the metaverse and VR and AR, but in all honesty, I just don't see Meta developing a comparable product to what Apple is going to eventually release with VR and AR. And I tried the first Quest 1 headset, and it gives me a little dizziness because the resolution isn't that high. And Beat Saber is cool, but other than that use case, I was trying to watch a YouTube video on it, and I was just watching a YouTube video with my TV right now, even though the TV was about the same price as the headset, the TV is a much better viewing experience for YouTube. And you could also watch YouTube with other people, so I could cuddle with my girlfriend or watch with friends nearby. We could watch a football game on the TV. Can't do that in the metaverse yet. Maybe one day, but for right now, I don't trust Meta to build out the metaverse, even though I like Mark Zuckerberg now. I listen to his podcast with Joe Rogan. It makes me like the person who he is, but I can't get on board with his company, especially with Instagram and Facebook always losing out to Be Real, Snapchat, TikTok, and then just trying to copy all those features from other people instead of just coming up with that new idea themselves. They're essentially just copiers instead of innovators, in my opinion. That's why I don't really like Meta too much. And too reliant on ad revenue, which Apple's just took a bite out, and makes for a company where I'm nothing's really making me passionate about the brand here. So getting back to tier 2, essentially removing the crypto tier, we got the 4 tech giants. Those take up a huge weight of the S&P 500 and the QQQ. So you can say I'm kind of on board with the indexes. I just want Tesla to be the weight of those indexes times 10 basically. So that's why I make my own index, because that's kind of what a portfolio is. It's your own index. So buy my MWG index, ticker MWG. No, don't follow my portfolio at all. Just remember, just stick with S&P 500, put it into a Roth IRA, max out your 401k. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't listen. So we'll start off with the non-tech company out of the group of 5 in tier 2, which is Chipotle. Chipotle. It is by far my favorite place to eat, and I'm sorry, it's just the perfect blend of quality and quantity. At Chipotle, it's almost like a buffet, because you could just ask for extra of everything you want, and you could get a nice veggie bowl with some peppers and onions, some guacamole, which has some jalapenos mixed in there with some more red onions and lime juice. You get some white rice, some black and pinto beans. You get some mild tomatoes and some corn and lettuce. And you could get a side tortilla. And Chipotle has this special like vinaigrette sauce that is really good. It's kind of similar to how Chick-fil-A has a Chick-fil-A sauce. It's just the iconic sauce of the brand, and that's the vinaigrette. The vinaigrette is nice and sweet. It's mostly red vinegar and honey, and it's delicious with a bowl. I don't do it every time because it has a lot of calories and sugar, so I try to pass from it. And also, if you can make like your own sauce using the hot sauce from Chipotle mixed with the sour cream to make it like called like a dragon sauce. Beautiful. And also the Chipotle CEO, his name is Brian Niccol. He's not like one of the founders of Chipotle, sadly. One of the founders stepped out of the CEO role. But Brian Niccol came from Taco Bell, and because he came from Taco Bell, he brought a couple of those Taco Bell strategies. So now Chipotle has 3 to 4 limited time items rolling in throughout the year. So right now it's a garlic guajillo steak. It's like this special seasoning that goes in the steak mixed with lime juice and cilantro, because that's really Chipotle's like 3 ingredients: cilantro, lime, and salt. That's basically on every single item that Chipotle offers. And I don't think the prices are outrageous. It's a slight more premium over like a chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A, or like a burrito or a taco at Taco Bell, or like a Big Mac at McDonald's. It's a slight more premium, but the premium is worth it because it's that much healthier, and it's just like a full meal. For like, even with inflation and Chipotle raising their prices like 3 times in the past like year and a half, you could get like a veggie bowl with a side tortilla, which now costs 50 cents. I'm waiting for the day that side tortilla becomes $1, because it is coming within the next like decade for sure. You can still get a veggie bowl plus a side tortilla for under $10 with tax. I think so. I'm pretty sure. Just under $10, which in my opinion is a great deal. It's a full meal. You get your veggies, you get your grains. You don't get any fruits, but that's okay. You don't really eat fruits at fast food places. But Chipotle, with the Chipotlanes, it basically is a fast food place. You just place an order on the app, go through a drive-through, pick it up. I've never seen a Chipotlane once in my life, but I think like 80% of all new locations has a Chipotlane, and Chipotle is rapidly expanding their locations. Right now they have about 3,000 locations in North America, like just over that. And they recently announced plans that they're gonna go to 7,000 North American locations. And this doesn't even account for Europe expansion at all. They only have, I think, like 20 Chipotles in Europe currently, mixed in between like France, the UK, and a couple other places. So they could easily expand way more in Europe, expand fully to North America, and that's where my evaluation story comes in. This is my second guess in price per share, because I haven't had time to run projections on every other company. I just, I have this feeling in my gut on whether to invest in a company or not, basically. But that gut is a feeling of actually liking the product, and that's where the real value comes in. Actually, kind of matters more than what just the numbers say, is how you actually feel about a company. But anyways, talking about my Chipotle evaluation. So Chipotle has 3,000 stores in North America. Their target is 7,000 for all of North America. They don't really have like a date by that, but I think it's probably by the end of the decade. So using McDonald's price to sales ratio, because McDonald's trades at a higher price to sales ratio because it's just been around for so long, for decade after decade. So I think Chipotle will command McDonald's price to sale ratio. And I think price to sale ratio is used way less than PE ratio. I've never really heard anyone using price to sales ratio, but I think my logic makes sense here. So Chipotle's current PE ratio is 57.19, quite high, but they're still growing revenue at like 10% per year, which is more than like McDonald's. And I would like never invest in like Burger King or Wendy's because nothing excites me about that product. Like Chipotle is in like a perfect position for like the healthier lifestyle movement. Like whether it's vegan or not, like that sign right there is the plant-based chorizo that they rolled out for like a month earlier this year. I thought it was delicious, and they like Chipotle also put in like money into a startup called Meaty, which has like a mushroom-based alternative. I wonder if that's ever going to come to Chipotle stores. That'll be very interesting. And Chipotle is also rolling out the Chippy. So actually, I'm actually going to run the numbers on Chippy. So there's 3,000 locations right now. And the average wage of a Chipotle worker is 15 per hour, roughly, times the 1 hour that they work. So with the Chippy device, which is this robot that is rolling out into a couple Chipotles now, but will roll out eventually, because I mean, with the amount of labor costs that fast food places have to endure, robots are definitely coming through fast food places because, I mean, for one, the job isn't that desirable, and two, if you just replace everybody with robots, your margins could grow a lot. Because labor is a huge chunk of Chipotle's operating costs right now. So 3,000 times 15. 3,000 times 15.
It's 45,000.
So they save $45,000 per day that they're open when they're using Chippy. Because Chippy only fries the chips, they don't bag the chips. So usually a cashier person comes in at like 9 and we like open at around 11. So they have like 2 hours, 1 hour to fry the chips and 1 hour to bag the chips. So with Chippy, you're just frying the chips. So that's 4,000, that's 45,000 per day with Chippy alone, and 45,000 times 365.
It's 16,425,000.
It's kind of crazy when you run the numbers, but with just Chippy times 365 days that Chipotle's open, I think they might be open like 363 days because they take off like one day, like maybe they're half open on Christmas and like New Year's Eve, etc. But just assuming 365 days, Chipotle saves $16 million a year just by removing 1 hour of someone's job per location, per day. So yes, Chippy will cost money, but I don't think 3,000 Chippies are gonna cost 16 million per year. So that's why companies are interested in moving to robotics to save some labor here and there. And I mean, during COVID and just like after COVID, we're kind of still in like a labor shortage. So if you just fill up some positions with robots and just fill in all the other intermediate positions with humans, then the business is going to run more smoothly and you're going to have more profit. So it's better for the consumer and better for the producer too. So the current annual sales for Chipotle is $8 billion. I'm going to 2.5 times that with Chipotle expanding to 7,000 stores and opening up stores in Europe, and with inflation just kind of bringing up their bottom and top line. So that's going to be 20 billion in just revenue per year, not profit. So timesing that by 7 to match the McDonald's price to sales ratio, because that's what it is, you get a $140 billion valuation of Chipotle, and I think that's where the fair valuation for Chipotle is. Like, not like I wouldn't want it to be 140 billion right now. Same thing with like Tesla. I don't think it deserves to be 2 trillion right now, but I think that's where it will be in 5 years. So that is easily like a 3x. I could be completely wrong with this stock price evaluation. Price to sales is not a good metric to use. I don't think so, but it's just something to consider. Honestly, I just love Chipotle as a brand. I have Chipotle t-shirts and I'm willing to buy another Chipotle shirt for like $30 They were like one of the first to have rewards similar to like Starbucks rewards. Now everyone has rewards, but Chipotle was like one of the first batch to do it. They were one of the first batch to have a dedicated digital make line, just making orders for like Uber deliveries, DoorDash deliveries, and pickups. So I love how Chipotle did that, and they're rolling out the Chipotle lanes, which just is more convenient for people on road trips. Just drive right by the drive-through window and just pick up your Chipotle. Basically a fast food place now. There's really not that much more to say other than I think Chipotle has pricing power. I think they're way better than the competitors like Moe's, Qdoba, Bolé is another place. Just nothing competes with like the Chipotle vibe and the taste and the branding. I love Chipotle. I mean, that's why I work there. It was definitely my dream minimum wage job because I love eating their food for free each week. And I love getting like the little insights on the company. Like for example, that whole Chippy thing and Chipotle saving $16 million per year on just labor costs. That I wouldn't understand if I didn't work at the company. So that's just a little insider view there. And the next company is Apple. Apple makes so much money per year off the iPhone. And as they should, the iPhone is transformative so much on just like an order of magnitude greater than basically every other product that comes out yearly. Yes, all the products now look the same. Like the iPhone 14 to the iPhone 13 is like that Spider-Man meme of like, we all look the same, pointing at each other. But the Apple ecosystem, it now is more about services and ad revenue for Apple than rather just the hardware. But the hardware still makes a ton of money in sales, even if Apple isn't selling that much. Like the Apple stock price was down yesterday because of a report that the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 production is going to be in line with their internal estimates. I'm like, okay. So obviously people are going to buy iPhones less and less as they hold on to the iPhones more and more, and there's less exciting features year over year. Like I'm excited for Periscope lens and USB-C, but other than that, there's not really much else I want to hope for the iPhone other than, you know, slightly faster chip, better battery life, slightly better camera. That's just going to happen naturally. As a company, Apple has nailed the user experience. Apple's basically the one who made the hardware and software just align in that perfect way. And Tesla, in a way, is like copying that model. I don't think it's like an exact one-to-one ratio, but Tesla has their own charge connector compared to every other EV, which uses CCS connector. Well, Apple has Lightning and everyone else uses USB-C. You know, you see like a bunch of similarities and differences in between the two companies. I mean, in terms of the Apple ecosystem, I have the watch, I have AirPods, I have the iPad, I have a phone, I have the MacBook, I have AirTags. I'm fully in the Apple ecosystem, and I like the walled garden with iMessage, FaceTime, AirDrop. I've used so many times that it's just like I'm hooked to AirDrop. If a product doesn't have that, I'm missing out. And that's why I wish Apple would make their own camera, their own like DSLR, which would have AirDrop. That's like the one feature I would hope for. And each product has its own use case in the ecosystem. Like I love my watch for its run tracking and the health tracking and to tell time and to track sleep. Like I love all of that. I love my phone for all the phone things, like just so many phone things that you can do. You get Apple Pay for maps, for taking video, which I'm doing right now, as a calculator, as a messaging device, social media, all the different apps such as like Airbnb or ESPN or Spotify to listen to music. So many things you can do on your phone. The iPad, its use case is very niche, but I love it for its note taking and I love it for its bigger display, the 120 hertz to watch YouTube videos. And I love my Mac to do anything with typing, honestly, to do like any lab reports or any essays I have to do for school, any homework. I like to do it on this slightly bigger 13-inch display. It's not that much bigger. And yeah, I'm gonna edit this video on that MacBook with iMovie. So I love the Apple ecosystem, AirPods Pro, like I think like the stats, like if AirPods as a product was its own business, it would command like $100 billion valuation, which is insane because that's more than a company like Rivian and same as like a company like Airbnb, which I own. So, and Apple products over time have been just getting like more and more popular. Like as a whole in the United States smartphone market, the trend has just been more and more iPhones over time. Like their slice of the pie is just getting larger because people are just gravitating towards the software because the hardware year over year is getting less and less exciting. So the software is mattering more and more and more. It's like my iPhone just got better this month because of iOS 16 with the new wallpaper features, and I love the how you could copy text and photos. Like that was last year's software update. Yeah, like just like Tesla's, iPhones are getting better year over year for free. And yes, Apple is moving more towards services because they know that the iPhone sales and hardware sales overall are going to decline. Even with the M1 and M2 custom Apple-made CPU chips in their Mac lineup, hardware is going to decline, but they have so many users. I think they have like more than 1 billion users using their products. It's just an insane amount. So they're turning to services. They're going to nickel and dime people with that 5 gigabyte iCloud storage option, which I don't pay for, by the way. I don't think it's necessary. I really don't like paying for subscriptions at all. The only one I'm paying for is Spotify, and I think that would be the only one I would ever pay for, because if I'm going to watch Netflix, Disney Plus, I would just subscribe for a month and just cancel it right after. I think that makes the most sense. And maybe a cable subscription to watch sports, but nothing has appealed me yet in that space, because I think there could really be a sports package, whether it's like NFL Plus or ESPN Plus, that has like all the sports you want to watch for like $25 a month, but that product isn't out there yet because cable, a lot of people still have cable, but we're slowly switching away from that. This is just a side tangent. But yeah, Apple is trying to sell people on the Apple One, which is their bundle. I've never tried Apple Fitness Plus. I've never tried Apple News Plus. I've never tried Apple Arcade. I've tried Apple Music. I've converted to Spotify, so I don't know if that says something. I've tried Apple TV Plus. I've liked what I've seen on Apple TV Plus, but that was only with the free trial. I don't know if I'm ever going to pay for it. And yeah, Apple's trying to expand their ad revenue. They sell ads in the App Store. So like when you search up, let's say Instagram or Snapchat, like there's like TikTok comes up as a suggestion, and that translates to like other searches too. Apple is rumored to start selling ads in their Apple Maps. So like certain places might come up faster than, or like ahead of others in like the search. Kind of like Google search, how Google search has like certain ads. So like website shows up even though it's not the most accurate to your search. It just makes Google more money. So even with the good morning, that's my best Tim Cook impression. Not that good, I know. I love Apple. Apple is a Go company, but they're definitely mature. I love them for their dividend. It's like a 0.7% dividend yield on their stock. It's not that much. I own like $1,000 worth of Apple stock, and I only get like $1.50 of divvies per quarter. So it's not even that much, but adds up over time. Warren Buffett owns a huge chunk of Apple stock, so you have that security there of that bag holder. And I love Apple. And then we have Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. All three companies are trying to be the computing power in the cloud, but each of the three companies, their main businesses are a little different. Google mainly gets all their money from ads, even though they're putting a bunch of money into like Waymo and all the other like X projects that they had. Man, I love YouTube so much, and I think YouTube is going to be around forever. To me, YouTube being free, I don't even mind the ads that much, because you just watch like 15.
Here's what I found.
You watch like 15 seconds worth of ads, and you watch this like high quality video. Like I was just watching like a Bad Bunny video that was like 15 minutes long, barely watching any ads, and it's like a quality video because you're incentivized to make a better product because you get more ad revenue when you get more views. Sometimes the incentives aren't always aligned. Like sometimes there was clickbait in the past, But overall, make better content. More users come to watch that content, so you get more money as a creator of the video, and then as a watcher of the video, you get some nice quality content. So I love YouTube. I love YouTube more than any other social media. And the other huge part of the business is obviously Google search. Google search makes a ton of other money. Other products that I use of Google, I love their Google Docs and Google Sheets. That's how I made the EV tracker chart that I showed you earlier in this video. And I used to use Google Photos when Google Photos wasn't limited. Like I said, I don't pay for any Google One subscriptions, so I'm out of that. I've never really been a fan of Google Maps, but I did own a Pixel. I had the Pixel 3 XL, and I liked it. It was a fun phone to have to test out, but you know, iPhone is my go-to. And then we go to Amazon. Amazon, the home of Thursday night football. How cool is that though? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, sports is slowly moving into streaming, and this is the first year of like a 10-year plan with NFL of Amazon streaming Thursday night football, which is actually about to start today. The Dolphins play the Bengals. I don't have the Amazon Prime Video subscription, so I'm probably not gonna watch it. Maybe just the highlights. But yeah, Amazon Prime Video is part of the whole Amazon Prime package. They just like bought like a percentage of Grubhub, so they could offer like the Grubhub Plus subscription to Prime members at like no additional cost. There's also like Prime Music, and Prime Video has also like Jack Reacher. They have the Lord of the Rings series, so they got quality programming on the platform. I've never actually watched a single Prime Video series. I don't think so. I'll probably change in the future because Amazon just has so much money to pour into that. And all of that Prime stuff is a part of their plan to just keep you hooked to Prime. My family actually got away from Prime in the last year. We had it for a couple years, probably, maybe like 5 years of having Amazon Prime. And you just get, cheaper shipping rates. You get whatever you order in like 1 day or 2 day shipping, which is kind of insane how the logistics of that. But Amazon is just eating e-commerce. They're eating physical malls, which is kind of sad, but I love Amazon. The convenience of the platform is just what you want from a e-commerce site. It's just they have a huge wide selection and it ships pretty quick. I actually might buy my Halloween costume on Amazon instead of going to an in-person store. So yeah, Amazon's just eating a bunch of in-person stores. It's frankly inevitable, but that's what Amazon has. They haven't really monetized Amazon.com that much, but web services, AWS makes a huge amount of money for them, and that whole business, Microsoft Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, they're all growing in between like 20 and 40% year over year. So those are huge money makers for these three mega companies. And then you have like Amazon with the Coupler project. They're trying to make like Starlink with Blue Origin. We'll see how they do. I mean, they're not going to beat Starlink. Starlink is already, they've just celebrated making like 1 million terminals, which is pretty cool. Then we go to Microsoft's. My school pays for Microsoft 365, Microsoft Outlook, and I think because of that, we have like GroupMe as a main messaging software for the school, for like all the groups, for the classes. You go to GroupMe, which is owned by Microsoft. Like, Microsoft is kind of the business I'm most confused at, because Google obviously have YouTube and Google search. Amazon, you have Amazon.com, Amazon Prime, all those subscribers to that platform. And then Microsoft, you got a bunch of different stuff. Like, yes, you have Windows. I don't know how much money that makes directly. Then you got your direct-to-consumer PC products. It is all right, like the Surface laptops. Then you got Xbox. Microsoft's trying to buy Activision. game company that has Candy Crush and Call of Duty. Wonder if that deal will go through, make them a bigger player in the gaming space. But yeah, Microsoft, I want to see their revenue, where it comes from. Like how big a percent is Azure? Because I know it's like AWS, Azure, and then Google Cloud. That's like the ranking of the most popular. Yeah, so cloud is 26% of their business, and this was in 2019, so it's pretty outdated. Yeah, so Azure is like roughly 26, Office 365 is 25%, Windows is 16. They have LinkedIn, I forgot about that. That's a 5%, Xbox is 9. Yeah, so nothing really is that big of a pie, but just a bunch of little things that add up. It's just so consistent, yeah. And because all these tech companies, they just hire so many engineers, like just focusing on random projects here and there, they're just going to continue to dominate the market and just continue to grow their revenue over time, because the businesses that they have, they're not really going anywhere. Those 3 cloud businesses only expanding. Amazon e-commerce is just getting bigger. YouTube is just getting bigger. I guess Microsoft is trying to invest in gaming to make that bigger with their acquisition of Activision. That's similar syllable words there. So yeah, that's why I own those big 3. They're not too crazy, not going to give me like a 5x in a 5 years time span. Maybe like some other startup companies that I'm in, like maybe Duolingo could do that possibly. But not the big tech companies. Those are just stable, and that kind of helps me match the ETFs a little bit more, that I have those 3 big tech companies. But I also like all those products that are in each of those 3 companies. I love YouTube. I love Amazon.com, and the Prime membership is actually kind of worth it, because if you don't have Prime, the shipping fees go up. So if you buy like maybe more than 3 things per month from Amazon, you should just get Prime, because then you're actually saving money that way. And Microsoft, they got a whole bunch of products, but I interact with Windows because they have a bunch of Windows computers on my campus, and I interact with Microsoft actually every day with my Outlook email. So I like all 3 products, or I like all the products offered by the 3 companies. So that's why I'm invested in those 3 tech giants. Moving on to the next tier, and this is where you're gonna judge me, because even though I've been pretty good so far, not including Meta in my portfolio, that's looking pretty good this year, and Tesla at like 80% concentration, they're doing so far so good in this bear market. This is where you're gonna judge me, because all those previous stocks I've mentioned, the Teslas, Amazons, Googles, Microsofts of the world, except like Chipotle, they're all huge chunks of the QQQ. So basically so far I could just choose the index and maybe hold like a little Tesla position, and I would basically match the performance of the NASDAQ. But this next tier kind of differentiates me a little bit. It's a little bit more some spicy stock selections. And I'm kind of going to try and run through it quick. So the first 2, they're kind of like a pair because they correlate in price so much, is NVIDIA and AMD. AMD is destroying Intel in CPUs. If I were to buy my own PC, which I might because my MacBook's like 6 years old, still running like fine, like nothing's wrong with it, but I just might buy a PC to run like engineering software and to maybe play games. I'll probably get an AMD or NVIDIA CPU and a NVIDIA GPU. So NVIDIA dominates the GPU market. They're building like data centers. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but that should be consistent cash flow for NVIDIA. But chips are just so necessary. When the whole chip shortage was happening, that just made me aware of how chips are necessary in today's society. So like, China, please don't invade Taiwan, because we need TSMC to crank out chips 24/7. So yeah, I really like AMD and NVIDIA. I don't really know too much about the companies. I don't really know like, oh, this is the chipset they're releasing this year, it's like 15% better than the last one. I'm not really caught up like that, but I do know that they make insane amount of money. And when chips are going to be needed for a while. Even with the metaverse, we need smaller and smaller technology, because to have a headset on your face, it has to be really light. So you need a really small chip that is really powerful, and especially even for AR glasses, which are even a smaller form factor. So yeah, chips are always going to be needed, especially with all these full self-driving cars around. Everything's connected to the internet nowadays, even though you really don't need your microwave or fridge connected to the internet. I guess maybe your fridge, just get like a live camera view of what's in your fridge. Like so you're at the grocery store, you wanted to be like, oh, do I actually have this in my fridge already? You could check, I guess that's kind of cool, but your microwave, useless really. You're always gonna just be right next to the microwave when you actually want it to be on. So yeah, NVIDIA and AMD, semiconductor stocks, just out there. I believe in them long term. Then we have Airbnb. And this is the company where I'm like, I just love using their product so much, but I could kind of see where they could go wrong, because they have some competition in Vrbo and obviously the hotel industry, but they're transforming the hotel industry, because in my opinion, I would much rather stay at an Airbnb than a hotel, because Airbnbs usually have your own kitchen, so you could eat not only outside of the like apartment or house when you're traveling, but you could also like make some in-house meals to save some money. And usually for me, Airbnbs are not always in a better location, but just the overall setup is more nice. You get like maybe like a Roku TV, obviously you get your own kitchen, maybe a nicer bathroom. It just feels like a home, rather than a hotel feels like a hotel room, you know? Like, I mean, I guess that's the whole difference between the two products. One is just like host from people's homes, but yeah, I just prefer actual homes over hotel rooms, because hotel rooms are usually just a bathroom and a bed, and the TV is usually like 5 years old. I mean, not even 5 years old, like maybe like 7 years old. Doesn't really have Roku, runs like these old cable networks. It's just like, eh. I like Airbnb. I especially love the font. I love how they were like bragging about the whole new search categories feature. And I like Airbnb. Not really much to say other than I think traveling is definitely going to be a trend in the future. I think more and more people want to travel, and I think the hotel industry is going to slightly decline and Airbnb is going to take it over. What worries me is like the whole cleaning fees cliche with Airbnb, and all the whole like, oh, Airbnb is causing a housing crisis. But in my opinion, no to the housing crisis, because over time, demand and supply will come to equilibrium in a free market. That's just how it works. So if a bunch of hosts are running like Airbnbs in like a city, then more housing should come up to account for all like the spots that are taken by Airbnbs, so actual permanent residents could stay there. It's not just a tourist town 24/7. But you could say like, oh, housing doesn't come up in cities that fast. Okay, I can see that. And then the cleaning fees, well, I don't know what to do about that other than transparency. Airbnb has to just show the full rate, and whatever's cheaper, people will generally be attracted to, as long as it is a nice stay with the rating system that they have, which I think is pretty nice. You get true, honest feedback of the places. For me, every time I go outside of my hometown, whether it be Tallahassee or Miami when I was there, I really definitely want to go to an Airbnb over a hotel. And I think it's not like, oh, Airbnbs are cheaper than hotels now. I think they're pretty equivalent. It's just, I think the Airbnb experience is that much better. So now the next one's a spicy one, Rivian. So I was in Rivian for like a couple days during the IPO, and then I like jumped right out because I was like, wow, this market cap is crazy. It was like 120 billion. That was more than Ford and GM, and they haven't even produced like 1,000 vehicles yet when they IPO'd. Now they're starting to like ramp up production. I think they're aiming for 25,000 vehicles produced this whole entire year. I think they could realistically get to 500,000 to maybe 1 million per year, because I just believe in the Rivian product. They're taking a lot of similarities to Tesla, like building their own charging network, making their own actual software and hardware integration. Like, I think if I had to prefer, like if I had to rank all the softwares for cars, it would be number 1 Apple CarPlay, number 2 Tesla, number 3 Rivian, and this humongous gap that's just like a mile wide than every other car maker. Rivian is that good at software. The first 3 are like right there, neck and neck. So I actually really like the Rivian R1T. Like, if Tesla didn't exist, I would be a way bigger fan of Rivian because they're making the Rivian electric vans for Amazon. And then they have the Rivian R1S, just a full-size SUV. And then the pickup truck, the Rivian R1T, it's just really cool and neat product with the flashlight that comes built with the car, the Bluetooth speaker, the gear tunnel, the whole interior look of it. I really like the exterior look of it too. Like, I'm not really a truck person, but the Rivian R1T, for a decent price of like around $70,000, which, you know, it's on the high end, but the demand's there for the product. So I hope RJ Scringe, I think that's the CEO's name, he's on Twitter, like, posting production numbers. It's kind of like Elon, the company announcements on Twitter. And I hope Rivian survives. I think a $30 billion valuation for them right now is pretty fair. If they get to 500,000, I mean, they're basically, I mean, Tesla's gonna hit what, like a 1.4 run rate this year. They made 1 million vehicles last year. So I think Rivian could definitely be at like 100 to 200 billion valuation in the future. I think that's kind of what you can expect from them. And I just love the product that much. And like I said, I want to invest in products I love and I want to show support. And that's me with Rivian. They got, I think, like $18 billion in the bank for cash to invest in more factories. And then maybe one day Rivian releases like a $50,000 SUV that's slightly cheaper than the Model Y. And I buy that one instead of the Model Y. You never know. That's how much I like Rivian software. It could replace my Tesla dream car for me. Maybe. We'll see how Rivian does in the future. Next, we have Lululemon. Even though I've never tried a Lululemon product, I've always heard great things from them. I'm actually probably going to get my first Lululemon product this year, but I just love the aesthetic of a Lululemon product. Like, when I go to the gym, a bunch of girls have Lululemon outfits, and now a few guys are starting to pick up with that too. Like, maybe have a Lululemon shirt or Lululemon shorts. So Lululemon is definitely expanding their audience into the male spectrum because it was just basically all yoga pants for females. But now it's expanding wide. I think Lululemon's definitely going to grow more and more. They're direct to consumer, so they don't really need their physical stores, but they have them. I slightly prefer Lululemon over Nike for actual clothing, but when it comes to running shoes, Nike just blows Lulu out of the water. I mean, to be fair, this is the first year of Lululemon releasing running shoes or athletic shoes, workout shoes, and it's only for women. I'm pretty sure. I don't even think they have a male version. That's how biased they are to the female audience. But I mean, they're not really biased. It's just that's just the group of people who's made money for them in the past. But they're trying to expand that more and more. And they have like an audience like in China, and they're more than just the United States. So I really like Lululemon as a brand. I like their products, so that's why I'm an investor in the company. And they're in the consumer discretionary, so it's not like a necessity. It's not a necessity for a consumer to buy them, maybe like a Walmart or McDonald's or Taco Bell. But it's on like the higher tier for the more wealthier consumers. So I think as everyone gets more and more wealthy with the GDP per capita going up as America economy rises, people are going to buy more Chipotle, more Lululemon, more Teslas, because that's just the whole living standard slowly increasing. Then we have Duolingo. So here's a photo of an ad I saw today. It's like Duolingo, but for finance. I don't even care about what the app was, but when I see a phrase like that, I'm like, okay, Duolingo is doing something right. So Duolingo is a language app, but they also are releasing a math app this year, and they have like an ABCs app for little kids. And honestly, I really love Duolingo as a product. So when learning Spanish, they have this like tree, so that they obviously have the lessons, but they also have these stories, and these stories are built with characters. And over your arc of learning a language, the characters have story arcs. And I just love like the way, I mean, who hasn't seen Duolingo on TikTok if you're on there? Like I love Duo and all the other characters, and Duo just makes me want to learn Spanish. I don't really always have time to learn Spanish. Like I have to do my Spanish lesson today, but also I have a streak of like around 120 days, which is pretty good. And thanks to Duolingo, I know more Spanish than ever. Yo sé más español que el tiempo. It's me trying to say I know more Spanish than ever. I don't know how that came out. We'll see if Google Translate corrects me or not. Yeah, we'll see. But I definitely know more Spanish than ever. And I'm going to continue to use Duolingo until I get fluent, especially when I have free time in between my semesters and during the summer. But ideally, I really want Duolingo to expand to like teaching coding, to teaching physics, to teaching chemistry, calculus. Oh, if you could get Calc 1, 2, and 3 in those trees on the app. Like it's definitely a lot to do, and you can't tackle everything at once. But with the elementary, like 4th grade, 3rd grade level algebra math app that they're releasing this year, it's on its way to being a full-fledged thing. Duolingo makes their money mostly through subscriptions rather than the ad business. And Duolingo Plus, in my opinion, is pretty worth it if you're using the platform, because you get like unlimited hearts, so you can just run through the lessons way faster and progress to your goals. And Duolingo is just one of those products I love. I love it so much that I bought Duo, which is a $30 stuffed animal that's coming to my house, so Duo can haunt me every day for me to do my lessons. All right, the next one is Spotify. And Spotify, if you told me I would have owned this stock 3 years ago, I would have been like, why? Because I was on Apple Music. I was on Apple Music since 2016. This time last year, I made the switch over to Spotify when they added lyrics, because I really needed lyrics on Spotify. I literally made that video and I was completely honest. And now I'm excited to get my very first Spotify Wrapped this year. Don't know why Apple never did that for all of us Apple Music users. But I really love Spotify. I love how podcasts and music are all in one app. I'm paying for the product, and I think I would even pay for it even if it doubles in price, because I'm right now paying for it for $5. Even if it goes to like 10 to 12, I would still be paying for Spotify because I just love listening to music. I love their algorithm way more than Apple Music, like their recommendations. I love all the personalized playlists they automatically make for me, way better than Apple Music. I just love the fonts of Spotify and how they had like a Stranger Things collaboration to show you like, oh, the songs that will save you from Vecna. Like that's just like something fun that you didn't really get with Apple Music, but you get with Spotify, because they're just more in touch with music lovers. And yeah, I love Spotify. They're diving more into audiobooks now. I hope they release an audiobook subscription, maybe like a little bundle with the premium. So for like maybe $15, you could get one free audiobook per month. I would maybe be interested in that. I've never really listened to audiobooks, but Spotify is attempting it, so hey, I'll go for it. And yeah, them buying out Joe Rogan was probably actually my little like toe into the pool with Spotify, because I used to listen to Joe Rogan on Apple Podcasts, but then I got switched over to a Spotify exclusive, so that got me using the product. And because I was like using the product, that made me less scared to switch over. So eventually I switched over, and I don't think I'm ever going back to Apple Music. I prefer Spotify, which is weird because I used to be such a supporter of Apple Music. And the last one is Enphase Energy. I don't really know that much about Enphase Energy, but me, Kevin, who's a finance YouTuber, is really passionate about Enphase Energy. And I could see the philosophy on why you would invest in Enphase Energy, because Tesla is really focused on their car business and can't really do that much in the energy sector, which is, selling mega packs or power walls or solar panels or Tesla roofs. They can't really do that much when all their attention's on building cars, building as many cars as possible to get to that 20 million run rate, which is their goal. So here's where Enphase Energy comes in. They're selling their own little type of power wall. They're selling inverters for solar panels, and they're not really providing the actual solar panels, which is a very low margin business, but them and like Solar Edge, they have like a duopoly over the inverter space. And the inverter, I think, is kind of like a little backup battery grid for the solar panels. Not really sure what inverters do. Like I said, I need more information on Enphase Energy, but I mean, their revenue is ramping up. I'm a whole believer in the shift to renewable energy. I think we could definitely run the world on just solar panels and batteries. We don't need much else. If we have geothermal and solar and wind, cool, but we don't really need that. So if Tesla's not going to be an investment for me for that shift to, you know, solar panels and batteries on everyone's homes, then Enphase Energy is going to be that type of investment for me. So in 5 years, when I do this video again, please judge me on that tier 4 or tier 3, and then we'll see how I did with each of those picks, because that'll be very telling to see if my investment philosophy is actually pretty good, or am I just nothing compared to the market. So then we have this next tier, which is more like the speculative stocks. I really like some of these companies, and then some of the other ones, I just follow people who are more in touch with the actual type of these companies, but I like the idea of them, but I don't really understand each company. So we have Block makes the app called Cash App. Cash App is very popular among the youth. I love Cash App so much. That's where I buy my stocks, my crypto. They get these little Cash App boosts with the Cash App card. I get my direct deposits through there. Please don't hack me or don't steal any of my Apple products, which I said earlier in this video. But I really do love Cash App, and I believe it's with the trend of just banking the unbanked. It's almost like crypto, but it's the nice shift of a digital wallet. So I really love Cash App and what they're doing and all their software updates to the app. Their fonts are lovely. So it's just one of those products I really love. I don't really see how they can make that much money. I mean, as a bank, I guess you just hold on to people's money and you lend that money out and you get interest on that lending, and that's how you make money. As a bank, that's traditionally how you've done it. But there's a lot of competitors in this, what's the name of the space? It's the fintech space with SoFi, Venmo, Cash App, all those banks. Still recording? All right, then we have Sweetgreen, which is just like a healthier version of Chipotle. Really fresh ingredients, really nothing unhealthy like a sour cream or like cheese. That's all like not really there in Sweetgreen. They're just like organic ingredients, so much more healthier feeling than Chipotle, even though Chipotle is really healthy. But Sweetgreen's kind of on the expensive side. It's like $12, $13, $14 for like a bowl, while Chipotle is like $9 with the side tortilla. I really like Sweetgreen. They only have like, I think 200 locations right now across the United States. Hopefully they could get that to 1,000. They don't have a location in the city I'm living in right now because my city's so small it doesn't support it. But I definitely like Sweetgreen, and I would not mind if it was in more places because it just promotes a more healthier lifestyle. And although the prices are a little high, when I'm rich one day, I would love to eat Sweetgreen like maybe once a week. Then the next couple companies are SaaS companies, and these are completely speculative. I just follow these couple people who I trust a little bit, and they have a really good track record with their stock picking. So don't really judge me for these next picks because I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just following this crazy revenue growth of SaaS companies. I could be wrong, and this could be a bubble. You never know. And I might lose a bunch of money with just these stock picks alone, but they're not that much of my portfolio. I'll show you at the end. So yeah, we're looking at GitLab. which is like this, I guess, one integrated coding platform. CrowdStrike, which is this cyber security company. We have Datadog, which I think is a company for IT management, which is just like a dashboard of showing you what's running and what's not within a company. We have Snowflake, which is this data processing company that could tell you what to do and when with your data, but it implements its like own hardware to collect that data, while Palantir just adapts to your current data inflow and outflow. Yeah, and then also Palantir's there. They work with the government, but also are kind of like 50-50 now with the commercial and government side. Alex Karp is their CEO, a very strange man. Then I have Cloudflare. I really don't know what Cloudflare does that much. I know they're trying to compete with AWS in some way. I know, I need to research these products way more and actually understand what I'm investing, because what I'm doing now is kind of irresponsible, but it's just like, my mind is like, if these companies have that much revenue growth for like 5-10 years and you just hold the stock for 5-10 years, shouldn't you make money? Isn't there like a way to lose money with these SaaS growth companies? Like maybe if they were overvalued, but because of this bear market, I think they're pretty good deals. Would I be buying these companies if we were in a bull market right now? Probably not, but because we're in a bear market, I think I could take some risk with these picks, and we'll see how they do in 5 years. This is like me kind of putting just some money into like a parlay for football or basketball and just seeing how it goes. And then I have a whole handful of divvy stocks. These are companies that I believe are going to be around for like the next century, so they're just going to bring me a little cash flow on the side. So we have Starbucks, Procter & Gamble, The Queen, we got Tide, and so many other products under P&G. I use their shampoo, I could use their deodorant, their toothpaste, so many things with Procter & Gamble. I can't even mention them all. Oh yeah, their paper towels are Procter & Gamble too. Bounty, right? Bounty, yeah, it's P&G. Then we have Pepsi. Pepsi, like 50% of the revenue comes from Frito-Lay. I love Doritos, I love Lay's. I don't really like, soft drinks like that, but I drink bubbly, which is from Pepsi. I also have Coke, which is, Pepsi's rival. I mean, Coke is such a huge product. They have body armor. Coke is like everywhere on campus. I see a bunch of body armors. Pepsi has Powerade. I think Pepsi's gonna buy out Prime, but we'll see if that happens. That's like my one prediction I want to make in this video, and we'll see how that goes in the future. I also have Walmart. I grocery shop at Walmart, so why not own it? Nike. I really like the product. I wear those Nike shoes, the Tempo Next Percents. Couldn't go without them. Cat, which, I mean, you really need some machinery to build like the factories, like the Gigafactory, to build cities. So Cat's always going to be around because there's always going to be new housing, new developments in urban cities. So that's my investment there. McDonald's, those $1 fries, I adore, even though I rarely get them. McDonald's is just such a classic company. Why not? They're basically like a real estate company. They just bring in the rent from all those franchisees, not even making money really off their food, but basically off our rent. Interesting idea. Then we have Target. I love Target. It's just like the more upscale version of Walmart. Even though the prices aren't even that much more, the user experience at Target is just so much more luxurious than Walmart. Everything's like stocked. The interior designs are more updated. All of the Target brands, I feel like there's more Target brands, so there's more like clothing. I think there's the Target brand, whether it's like Good and Gather or Cat and Jack, I think is one of the brands, or Goodfellow. I just love all the Target brands more than Great Value, even though I usually tend to buy the store brand other than like the generic brand because I'm trying to save money. So I just really love Target. Target in the past couple of years, they've been opening up like these college Targets, and I love the college Target that's like very close to me. And then we have Dollar General. It is my belief, this is a kind of a futuristic prediction, but when all the gas stations close down because there's no more gas cars, what's going to happen to all those gas station convenience stores with all those little snacks? My prediction is that Dollar General is going to buy out a lot of them, or maybe not buy them out, but just move into those spots where gas stations used to be and open up little convenience stores that are just under Dollar General. Because the whole like dollar space is kind of consolidated in between now Dollar Tree and Dollar General. And I prefer Dollar General a little bit more because they offer a little bit more groceries. So that's my pick with them. And then we have waste management. People are always going to be spewing out trash because that's just how American society is. Even as we get richer as a whole, we're probably going to have more trash, which is kind of a sad thing. But so many single-use plastics out there. There's this company called Incredible Eats, which makes edible like spoons, forks, straws. I really hope Chipotle buys them out, please. I think that's just like a perfect match. Just have like a edible fork or spoon they could buy for like an extra like 50 cents. Or maybe not even that, like upscale it for like 10 cents, 20 cents. And yeah, people would be down to eat their fork or spoon. I love that idea. So there's waste management. Then there's Costco. People are obsessed with Costco. I always hear good things about Costco and how well the company's run. So there's just one company in my stock portfolio. I'm concerned about like the population. Like more people aren't really getting married and having a family. So there's more single people out there. Single people don't really need Costco memberships. But I don't know. I mean, I've seen like only couples already go to Costco, so I guess it's valuable then. But for me, Costco is just way too expensive, and there's not one near here. Like there's one like 5 miles away. It's just too far of a drive. And then there's Domino's Pizza. People are always gonna love chain pizzas, even though if there's like local restaurants that make better pizzas, Domino's is still gonna be right next to that local pizza chain because people just like the basic pizza and sometimes cheaper. Yeah, like Domino's has like an $8 per 3-topping large pizza deal right now, and I think that's pretty good. And then there's Lowe's. Lowe's is kind of like my little touch of an investment into the real estate market. When real estate's going well, usually Lowe's and Home Depot are doing well too. It's a nice dividend payer. It's where I'm probably gonna build out my like whole Tesla bed into my Model Y if I ever do that. Or if I build my little like electric car using like electric motor from Amazon and like tires and batteries in series. I saw like a whole YouTube video on that. So Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'm also pretty heavily invested in them. Bitcoin and Ethereum, a lot of people don't get, but I think we're just on this path to where the dollar, where cash isn't going to exist anymore. Obviously, everything's going to be digital payments, but the dollar is actually going to be in terms of like a Fed coin. So there's going to be like a Fed coin, and the United States can control that Fed coin, but it's so tied with other cryptocurrencies that you could easily switch your money from that Fed coin into like Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other asset. Because I love Web3 where you're owning the stuff. Like let's say we go to the metaverse and you want to own, I don't know, like a shirt or a pair of shoes in the metaverse. Could that be an NFT you buy with Ethereum? Yeah. What happens if you buy like a property and that property is backed by the Ethereum blockchain? So like you buy a property, then you get like a deed to the house showing you own the property, but more so you just get that property on the blockchain. So maybe you could get like interest off of that somehow with maybe, I don't know, blockchain integration. I just know that there's a bunch of smart minds working on the blockchain. If you listen to Vitalik Buterin and his podcast with Lex Friedman, you're just like, this guy, I don't really understand everything he's talking about and what Ethereum and Bitcoin could be. But there's just a bunch of smart people working on it that I feel like it just makes sense to separate the monetary system from the government. I mean, the government failed so badly during COVID with the stimulus checks, and now we're dealing with like 9% inflation, which is so high. And it's just like, if we had Bitcoin as a system, and technology is getting so good that we're actually getting deflation of a Bitcoin currency, which is already so deflationary. And it's also a fact, like, anyone could easily just create a digital wallet with Bitcoin, and not everyone could go to a bank and make a bank account. It's way easier to just set up a digital wallet than a bank account, which is kind of strange, even though a lot of people are afraid of these digital wallets. And then you could also see Bitcoin, maybe not as like a currency, maybe the Fed coin will always be the currency, but the Bitcoin is just like the store of value. Because gold as a market cap is like a huge amount. So even if Bitcoin just matched the market cap of gold, Bitcoin would go up a lot from here. It would be like, I think like 500,000 per coin if it like matched the gold market cap. It's some number like that. I think Ethereum will overtake Bitcoin in the future because Ethereum is just way more powerful from a compute power perspective. Like, I was thinking of this use case, like, other than the whole like thing of like buying a property and it's backed by the blockchain. Like, let's say I was in a fantasy football league, and the fantasy football league, you have to put money in because like the winner of that fantasy football league gets like the money from every other player, right? So you put all the money into this like fantasy football pool, which is like a smart contract. Let's say it's like 150 per person, and then the fantasy football league doesn't start until everyone has their money in. So once the money's in, since no one's gonna touch it for 4 months, you could actually put it into the Ethereum blockchain by like staking it and actually get a couple extra dollars. Maybe if it's like, oh, there's like 10 people putting in 100, then the whole thing's 1,000, and basically you get like 2% interest off that over like the 5-month span of the NFL regular season. So you actually get like 1,000 with some change just by staking it. And it's also like a trustless system because you could see who's put money into it and who hasn't, and see the money's actually there, and you'll get your money in a verified way at the end of the fantasy football season. Like, you could program that. There's some way to do that. Maybe that is my genius idea, and I should go pursue that right now with coding and build that out. I mean, it's actually not a bad idea, but things like that are possible with the blockchain. There was a whole NFT craze. I kind of want to own an NFT. That's kind of cool. It's just you own like a little piece of art, but I can't justify buying an NFT for more than like $10. And also like a YouTube channel called Yes Theory, they had this, I think, NFT project to help raise money for their Iceman documentary. So if you wanted to support the creating of that art piece, which is the documentary, you could just buy the NFT and you have like early access to watch the documentary when it gets edited and published, and you're like supporting it via the blockchain. So I mean, there's use cases like that, and Logan Paul did like the whole like 100 pictures in 100 days things, different NFT projects, the CryptoPunks, all those invisible friends. NFT craze was funny. Decentralized exchanges are pretty cool. How you could not go through Coinbase or Voyager RP or Celsius RP. I was so worried about BlockFi, because if BlockFi went down, I would have lost around like $15,000, which would not have been good. I mean, I am taking a risk with them, but I'm glad they didn't go under. Or you could exchange like crypto without going through FTX, so you don't have to use a centralized exchange. But I don't really know the future potential of Bitcoin and how it's going to be used in our everyday lives. I just know it's a better system than today, and people who are smart are working on it, and I just want to be a part of that process. This video is a long one, but it's definitely very nerdy. All right, so now I'm going to show you my actual portfolio. So Here's my Cash App account. I love the new layout. This whole layout of like the Bitcoin stocks and my balance just like showed up this month because there's this whole like search feature. So you can see all like the discounts with the Cash App card right here. And then all my activities right here. So now we're going to my stock picks. So currently I have $8,253 in Tesla. After the stock split, I have 30.77 shares. My goal is to get the Tesla amount to 10K and then hopefully to like 15 to 20K so that when Tesla doubles, it just doubles right into the lap of me buying a Model 3 or Y. Then I have a good $1,000 in Apple and Chipotle, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Amazon. I'm gonna try and get all of those 4 to that Apple amount of 1,000, so each could be at 1,000. And then I have Starbucks here because I thought Starbucks was undervalued, so I basically bought it at the bottom. I kind of timed the market, but I just thought like, oh, $75 for a Starbucks share with a 3% dividend yield. That was just too appealing, so that's why I have one Starbucks. So I could get, you know, like a total of, I'll show you my dividend income in a little bit. So then we have Duolingo at $21, Enphase, Lululemon, Spotify, Airbnb, AMD. I want to get in Rivian, all those ones that were in my upper tier that I want to be judged at. I want to get all those to 400, and then the speculative tier to 300, and then the divvies to get to 200, so I could at least get $1 per dividend release from all those companies. So I got Datadog at $11, Sweetgreen, Palantir, Rivian. And here's the really ones I don't really know about: GitLab, Snowflake, CrowdStrike. Then we have Target. I might buy one Target share because I also think it's undervalued right now at 151, with the dividend yield going to be at like 3% because they just increased it to like $1.05 per share. Then we have Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, My Queen, Dollar General, Waste Management, McDonald's, Costco, Coke, Nike, Lowe's, Walmart, Cat, and Domino's. Let me count how many stocks this all is. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36. So this is a total of 36 stock selections. Realistically, I only have 15 that I'm going to be really putting like 95% of my portfolio in, and then basically like the top 5 are going to have like 90% of my portfolio. So I'm heavily concentrated. I just have a bunch of divvy stocks because I don't really want to own the S&P 500 and put any money into oil at all. So that's just like a personal stance of mine. And then going into Blockify, currently I have some money sprinkled in between different accounts, but this is basically where most of my crypto money is because I get 3.5% interest on my Ethereum and my Bitcoin. So I just keep it in here. I already got 15%, $15 of interest this month in Ethereum and Bitcoin. You can definitely clearly see the 50-50 split of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And yeah, that's my Blockify account. And then the next time I make this video, hopefully my Roth IRA has a couple $1,000 in it. Maybe, we'll see. As I get more comfortable with my crypto and stock portfolio, I feel like, okay, this is good. I've done all I can with this, and let me put some money towards retirement, because all the money that I put in now is going to be a huge amount when I retire. If the S&P 500 returns, the 7 to 10%. I'm putting all my money right now into the QQQM, which is basically the NASDAQ, but a slightly lower expense ratio, because I believe in tech a little bit more than the average person. So I think my retirement account should reflect that. So there's my Roth IRA, only at 1 QQQM right now, but hopefully it's more in the future. So that was a whole video spewing out all the information I've basically tried to learn in the last year. And I'm done with this huge 1 to 2 hour video of me spewing out way too much personal information, but it's okay. It's how I'm going to evaluate myself in 5 years to see if oh, Maxwell, you should probably just stick to the S&P 500 and not try to outsmart the market. Because my personal philosophy right now for investing is just hold on to like 10 to 15 growth stocks that you really believe in the product. And through time, the stock prices are going to reflect a proportionality with the increase of their revenues and their net profits increasing. And honestly, we'll see in 5 years if I even still want a Tesla, or I'm like, I like my equity position so much that I just want to hold onto my equity for maybe like 5 more years and just buy a super cheap gas car to hold me off. We'll see. But those are my current thoughts right now. I just spent like a whole 3 hours recording this super long video, so hopefully I can get it edited